Hello, this is Fear Dragon coming at you with another StarCraft 2 netcast. Today we have game number 2 between these two players, Babyknight and Snute. So if you have not seen game number 1, go ahead and check that out first. Babyknight gave you a heart in the first game, so go ahead and check that out if you want to receive a heart from Babyknight. And then you'll get a heart from Snute in game number 2. It's just also awesome, but don't read that part if you haven't seen game number 1. But if you're still around, I'm just going to assume you've seen game number 1. So let's go ahead and introduce these players once again. Spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of Ohana, we have the blue Protoss player. He is representing Team FXO and also the Danish colonies, or country I should say, probably not colonies. Hopefully Danish people don't get offended. We have the Protoss player Babyknight. And his opponent spawning the bottom right-hand corner of Ohana. We have the red Zerg player, and he is representing Team Norwegia. Norwegia? He's Norwegian, guys. And he's representing Team Gamers League. We have the red Zerg player, Snute. So give it up for Snute. He is currently up 1-0 against his opponent, Babyknight. So Babyknight has to win this game or he is going to be knocked out. This is actually from the losers bracket, best of 3 from campus party. So that does mean whichever player ends up losing this best of 3 series will end up getting knocked out of the tournament. That basically disqualifies them from any chance of getting first, second, third, or whatever place. I think this is somewhere around round of 16 or round of 8, somewhere around there. But in the meanwhile, we do see some pretty normal looking play coming out of both these players. Excuse me. Now, just a little bit of talk about that last game. Babyknight did go for that very, very fast third expansion. And honestly, I think it came back to haunt him a little bit. He did a very good job fending off that aggression from Snute. But unfortunately, after he tried to do that further aggression of his own, going in with those huge Blink Stalker aggression, I think that honestly the thing that really cost him the game was just his army composition was not very well suited against his opponent. His opponent Snute was able to get up that critical number of Mutalisks and Zerglings, and even though Babyknight had that +3/+0 upgrades kind of finished up, Snute was able to just overpower with a massive number of Zerglings. And I think that Babyknight not having any Zealots, and really only I think 1 or 2 Archons morphed in at the very, very last second, Snute was able to just kind of overpower his opponent's army with those Zerglings. But we're going to have to see how these players decide to play in game number 2. Now, we do actually see Snute doing the same thing he did in the last game, going for this expansion over here at the third before he goes for the one at the natural, not wanting to deal with that probe, just allowing those Zerglings to get out before that probe really has a chance to do much of anything in terms of annoyingness and harassment. Now, we do actually see only 2 Zerglings out in this game as opposed to the last game where we did end up getting 4 out. And with those 4, he was able to do a little bit of pressure at that front right before this cannon finished up. And it looks like he actually might be able to do a little bit of that pressure once again. No, not going to really opt to do it with these 2 Zerglings. Just going to go ahead and sit over at that Zelnaga watchtower. In the meanwhile, Babyknight going for that regular old Forge Fast Expand. Already grabbed those 2 gas geysers in the main. So that is going to allow him to get up some of that good old gas count with 2 on each gas. That is kind of indicative that he's just going to be going for some additional gateways in the near future. Wants to allow himself to make sure he has the minerals to build up that gateway count. Definitely going to be needing at least 3 gateways to really defend against any kind of unknown pushes that he does not know his opponent could possibly be doing. Of course, we do see that GL Snute going for that regular old play, actually not even grabbing these gas geysers, delaying that Zergling speed once again, especially, although this time on a slightly lower Zergling count, honestly. So we're going to have to see how well Snute can deal with putting on a little bit of pressure and just getting that good old scouting information. Now, one thing that Snute is definitely going to be looking for, in addition to scouting this front out a little bit, is seeing when exactly Babyknight decides to take that third. As if he does not take the third by around 9 minutes, Snute can probably infer that, hey, there's about to be a big 2-base push coming, and I got to prepare for it. Now we do see that Zergling kind of preparing over there, just sitting and waiting to see what his opponent is going to be doing. And in the meanwhile, it looks like those 2 gas geysers for Snute actually being grabbed, so he's going to be able to start teching up in the near future. So very similar builds coming out of Snute. In the meanwhile, we do see Babyknight actually throwing down those gateways this time. Thank God. I think that last game he played very, very greedily, and it ended up you know, it's kind of weird because it actually didn't end up biting him in the ass. He kind of actually got away with it for the most part, but still ended up losing that game as due to what I believe was army composition issues. But still, getting out those gateways very important to defend, especially in a very, very wide open natural such as this. It's very easy for a Zerg player to dart between here and over here just to pull your Protoss opponent apart. Especially when you force the Protoss player to wall in this giant area over here if you want to get a nice secure little area to defend. Now, actually, we see a Dark Shrine coming out of BabyKnight. This is very, very interesting. We're going to have to see what he decides to end up doing. He does actually have a Proxy Pylon over here. It's going to be moving in with just a little bit of light aggression with those 4 gateways. We're going to see how much damage he can do. Now, Snoot should know about this. He has quite a few Zerglings already out. We do see 15 or so Zerglings. Now, we do actually see a couple of Roaches also being produced. So he's definitely going to be able to get a nice little surround. Trying to go for the surround on the Stalkers, but the Zealots are doing a good amount of damage in the meanwhile. And now those Stalkers able to do some nice little hits on those Zerglings, doing just a little bit of damage, whatever damage he can. And we actually do see +1 weapons finished up, so that's definitely going to help out against these Zerglings who are sitting on +0/+0. So that does mean they're going to be able to 2-shot those Zerglings as opposed to 3-shot them. And now the Roaches are going to pop out though. So BabyKnight is going to be forced to retreat at least a little bit. Might actually end up having to retreat all the way home. Looks like that is going to be what he ends up doing. Maybe? No, doesn't look like it. In the meanwhile, we do want to note that there is still this Dark Shrine finishing up. So once that Dark Shrine finishes, he's going to be able to do a lot of aggression. And we do have to note that the lair is finished up though, and a Spore Crawler going down at almost every, actually, yeah, every single base has a Spore Crawler. So very well played. My students going to be very much prepared for those Dark Templar, but you have to remember that those Dark Templar exist for more than just that surprise I have Dark Templar. It also means, oh, hold that thought, there are a huge number of Roaches coming out from Snoot, and we do have to take a quick look at the drone count. 54 drones, that's a pretty okay-ish number of drones, but now we do see the Dark Templar moving in, and actually, wow, Snoot able to see the little blur on the map, and actually notices that there are those Dark Templar. One of the Dark Templar is going to move in, and the meanwhile, the Zealots actually doing a good amount of damage to these Roaches, splitting them off, and Zealots actually win 1 versus 1 against those Roaches. And where is that Dark Templar? Going to go ahead and click on it. It looks like it is going to be getting quite a few kills over here in the main, but in the meanwhile, the push over at the third is going to get fended off. Now we do see this Dark Templar over here in the main still racking up those kills, up to 6 kills. So, oh wow, that's actually all the kills that BabyKnight was able to get in terms of workers. But you do have to remember, look at how many of these Roaches have been produced. And now, with the fact that all of that larva has been spent on Roaches, all that money and gas has been spent on Roaches, it does mean that Snoot is in a way a little bit behind. He does not really have a whole lot of upgrades or research. He doesn't really have like Spire Down or Infestation Pit or something that you would normally like to start teching toward at this point in the game. But he does have this huge army of Roaches, and he's going to make use of it as much as he can. Getting that Galileo reconstitution is going to be very important to wait for that, to make sure you don't just get so easily forced forward right on the ramp before your Roaches can really move up the ramp. But in the meanwhile, BabyKnight just going to be going ahead and pumping out those Immortals. Going to be very effective against what Snoot has. And getting out those Sentries is so important. I think that Force Fields are going to be so key in this next upcoming battle, as BabyKnight really just has a much smaller army. And we do see that this larger Roach army, it looks like Snoot might be having a little bit of indecision, moving back and forth with his army. Not really sure if he should just go for it, or if he should just begin teching up. He does actually not... He doesn't really have any kind of tech coming out that he really needs. You can't really just stay on that Roach composition for too long, as it really just does not go well into that very, very late game, especially when you start getting maxed out on Roaches. Roaches are not what you want to get maxed out on as a Zerg player, especially when your Protoss opponent is pumping out a lot of these Immortals and even has some of those Dark Templar, getting those upgrades, almost has that +3 weapons finish once again. But now we do see, finally again, Snoot moving out across the map. He has a 40 supply lead almost, but you have to remember Roaches taking up a huge chunk of that supply. Now we do have to remember it's going to come down to how good the Force Fields can be. Now, one thing that Snoot can be very, very wary of is the fact that FXOBabyKnight is going to have to split up his army a little bit if Snoot is smart about this. He can move up the natural and the third at the same time. And actually, no, there's that drop aggression that I was talking about in the game number 1. Snoot, very well known for his Zergling Baneling drop plays, but wow, actually dropping a bunch of roaches into the man. This is going to catch FXOBabyKnight completely off guard, and wow, he's going to be able to pick up the Twilight Council. That's going to be a nice little win. It's going to stop any kind of charger coming out. He's also going to be able to depower a bunch of these gateways, and now look at this limbo line of Protoss units trying to come up the ramp, and now all those overlords finally starting to unload most of the units, but the roaches, they actually seem to be in a fairly low count, and they're going for all those pylons, but I'm not sure it's going to be worth it, as with how many of these roaches going to end up losing. Wow! FXOBabyKnight actually able to clean that up quite handily. Now he's actually, oh my god, he's going to pick off so many of these overlords. Look at this. Wow, it's just a limbo line of overlords trying to retreat. They did not sign up for this. They did not sign up to be boats that were just going to get like thrown at lasers at, basically. And now we do see actually a nice little win from Snoot. Doesn't manage to pick off that Nexus. Does manage to pick off a couple of those pylons, but oh man, I'm not sure if it was worth it. We do see some additional aggression. No, not really even aggression, just some corruption going down over at the third of FXOBabyKnight, but I'm not really sure if it was worth it for Snoot. Let's go ahead and take a look at the work count. Oh, actually, you know, Snoot did manage to kill off quite a few of those workers from FXOBabyKnight, as well as picking off that main Nexus. I think he actually might have actually come out quite well in that, but still he has to be very wary of that counter push, as you have to remember Snoot focused most of his army on taking out a lot of those production facilities, and that basically allowed FXOBabyKnight to take his army and do a bunch of good damage to that army of Snoot without really taking a whole lot of damage on his own army. Now we do see some nice little Zergling run-bys. That's going to be very good for delaying. Snoot does have that higher drone count. He has that higher worker count and everything. But what he does not have is that higher army value right now. And just in terms of army composition as well and tech, he's falling a little bit behind, only just now getting those +2/+2 upgrades for attacks, for missile and melee attacks. But wow, he's going to have to deal with this big push-up barreling across the map from FXOBabyKnight. Now, FXOBabyKnight, even though he's far from max, it's a very scary army, especially when all you really have in terms of tech is going to be roaches. And wow, that's a lot of roaches, but is it going to be enough with some good force fields? I think that FXOBabyKnight can still take on that army pretty handily. Now we do see one Stalker blinking, and there are some good force fields blocking up a good chunk of that army from Snoot, but he is still baiting out quite a few of those force fields, making sure that they're not going to be able to be used once the big engagement actually happens. Now, one thing I do want to note is there is actually no observer out, so that does mean the creep advantage is going to be very much in Snoot's favor. Of course, Protoss players don't really have the advantage of creep at all. But still, now we do see two little angles that Snoot can come around from, but at the same time, FXOBabyKnight can use this giant geographical boulder as kind of a giant force field if Snoot tries to move out. But you have to remember, FXOBabyKnight is a bit far behind on the economy, so it's going to be his job to move out across the map and really just try and put on a little bit of that aggression. Now we do see FXOBabyKnight doing a good job force fielding off quite a few of those units, but really not. It's so difficult to call. He has so many of those sentries, so he can afford to spare a lot of those force fields. But hold that thought. Now it looks like the big engagement is going to be coming in. A lot of those overlords actually trying to fake out his opponent, and really actually they're all quite empty and really just forcing a lot of those force fields to go down. I really like that play from Snoot, not losing a whole lot of units and really just kind of delaying this push. But now we do see the units coming in from Snoot, and now FXOBabyKnight going down quite a few of those really solid force fields, and slowly but surely he's just picking off all of those units. And look at this, meanwhile behind all this, he's warping in more units, getting up this massive, oh my god, 6 immortals. What hurts more than 6 immortals when you only have roaches? I can't really think of a whole lot more, but we do see finally the roaches coming in. They're getting that nice little hug, and even though the force fields do go down, most of the roaches are still able to attack. But look at that, these +3 immortals are racking up so much damage and so many kills. All of these immortals sitting at so many kills. Oh my god, this is obscene, and I'm actually really scared for Snoot at this point. He's trying to reinforce on Zerglings now, and actually he's trying to take a very questionable 4th over here, as his 4th over here actually ended up getting denied by that one zealot. But here we go, one more time, the force field's going down, blocking out quite a few of those roaches, and now the overlord's trying to come in, trying to maybe fake out his opponent, but it looks like FXOBabyKnight, after all these attempts with those faked out overlord drops, does finally realize, and look at that. Now Snoot is now going to be supply blocked by about 40 supply. He's in such a terrible position, and look at this. FXOBabyKnight gonna be able to barrel down whenever he really wants to. Now FXOBabyKnight doing a good job checking around for that 4th expansion, wants to make sure that he's able to starve out his opponent. Now Snute, even though he does have this 4th expansion going down, what's he really going to be able to do with it? I mean, he's not going to be able to really transfer over drones over there. It's going to take so long for that expansion to really come into play. And now we do see just additional roaches being able to be produced because he's been forced to make all these units all this entire time. And now we do see more force fields going down. God, he has so many sentries already out. It's just insane. I don't think that Stu will ever be able to really starve out FXOBabyKnight on these forces, as he's been so careful with that force field placement. Look at that, so perfect with that placement and making sure he's not wasting any kind of energy, even though he has so many of those sentries. And look at this, the 3rd goes down, and now there is just this macro hatchery over here. There is really no actual mining 4th over here, and now FXOBabyKnight can move into this natural. I think that Snute might have to call GG very soon. There are finally some Hydralis out, finally some Lair Tech units out, but I'm not sure if it's gonna matter. This army is so large out from FXOBabyKnight, and now we do see finally there is going to be a final big engagement. The blink forward, the force field's trapping a couple of those units over on the ramp, and now the drones coming out. I don't think it's gonna be enough. These drones wish that they can nibble away at these Protoss units for 3,000 damage, but it's just not going to be the case. And these Immortals doing so much damage that there's going to be the GG. So it looks like FXOBabyKnight able to tie up this series 1-1. So it's going to go over to game number 3. I am so excited, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please go ahead and like and leave a comment below and all of that good stuff. Also give me any kind of feedback you have about the little sponsorship logos down in the bottom corners. Let me know if they're intrusive or if you like them, if you think it's good for esports, if you think I'm killing esports, if you think that zealots would make good barbecuers, or maybe they just taste good on a barbecue. Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and jump into game number 3.